Hi, this is Karen Rowland, founder of Hush Providence. Welcome to my new weekly Wellbeing podcast, Real People, Real Conversations, Real Life. We'll be talking about all things relating to the human experience. What makes up a life? What creates joy and happiness? What makes humans the same or different? How do we care for ourselves and each other? We'll even try to answer the 5 W's of well-being: who, what, when, where, and why, and how this all fits together. A little ambitious? Maybe, but join us as we connect with local topic experts, peers, mentors, and healers. Welcome to today's episode of Hush Providence, a Wellbeing podcast. I'm thrilled today to introduce Christina Rasieleski. She's a senior consultant at Glint. She's been there for about 4 years. She was a prior manager and lead advisor for Bersin Deloitte Consulting, and she's the volunteer executive director of RIEEC, Rhode Island Employee Experience Council. Can you elaborate a little bit on that role?
Sure. Hi, I'm so happy to be here with you today. Well, the Rhode Island Employee Experience Council is a group actually that you started, which I'm so awkward to say, right? But it's a wonderful group of individuals who all work in the employee experience space in Rhode Island, who come together on a monthly basis. So we have people who are in HR, who lead diversity and inclusion, rewards, well-being, all different aspects of the employee experience as a whole in Rhode Island and Southeast Massachusetts organizations. And we talk about the types of things that are impacting our organizations and our employees today, and brainstorm and really talk about how we can utilize best practice to impact our collective employee experience.
Well, I'm excited that you took that role on, and thank you so much for doing that and continuing all of that. So let's talk about Glint. And you listed in LinkedIn, the best compliment ever was that the Glint People Sciences team is one of the nerdiest sets of people data nerds out there, which was hysterical and funny and awesome. I want you to talk about the recent big news from Microsoft that Glint is now joining Viva in July of 2023. And then tell us about Glint and why you chose to work there.
Sure. Well, let's see where to begin. That comment, or that compliment, the nerdy, it is the best compliment. I guess the thing is I'll say that Stacia Gar, who made that compliment, Stacia Gar and Danny Johnson, the former colleagues from Bersin by Deloitte, they started their own consultancy many years ago, Red Thread Research, very well-respected analysts in the HR space. And so for them to say that they hardly trust anyone and are giving our study far more credence than they would give most vendor studies is everything. And really has high regards for the work that we do. And so, we call ourselves people data nerds. And we get super excited about finding new evidence and finding new insights that is going to help people be happier and more successful at work. So it just all comes together, if you will. And yes, we're joining Microsoft Viva. We've been, kind of part of the Microsoft team ever since joining LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is part of Microsoft. But now being part of Viva really just puts us right in the flow of work. So it'll be easier for managers and teams to really build those habits that support people's happiness. It supports people's success and well-being at work, but it's also going to help organizations have a greater understanding of those moments that matter across an employee's entire life cycle, and really shape and improve the employee's experience based on how work is done. So I just love that. And I think you asked, well, why did I join Glint? And it all goes back to that. I was at Bersin by Deloitte. I was leading a panel at our conference around employee engagement, employee experience. And I had Justin who is our leader, as part of that panel. And Melissa, who is part of our team, was a client at the time, and she was on that panel. And they were talking about employee happiness. And the more I heard them talk about Glint's philosophy of people being happier and more successful at work, even though I was in this employee experience space and I had studied employee experience and employee engagement and worked in it for so long, really looking at it from the aspect of happiness and helping people be happier and more successful at work spoke to my heart and my values. And I said, I've got to be part of that team. And so from that point forward, I knew that I had to keep watching for openings at Glint, and I had to be part of the Glint team. And so that's what led me to Glint.
That's awesome. I love it. So, it's May 2nd, and May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Actually, I don't know if you saw the news this morning, but the Surgeon General just today announced the importance of mending the social fabric of our nation to combat mental illness and loneliness. He did a detailed framework of how we need to do that and how we all have to be responsible. Parents, coworkers, neighbors, we all need to get it right. It's getting to that place in time that it's very important, more now than ever, probably. And now a shout out to our sponsor, the Good Seed Market, 138 Central Avenue, Seekonk, Massachusetts. Started in 1989 by 3 friends with a goal of creating a neighborhood market offering simple, natural, organic products for a healthy lifestyle. Now a member of the Independent Natural Foods Retailer Association, our friends at the Good Seed are offering our listeners a 10% discount on their first purchase just by mentioning Hush Providence. The Good Seed Market, a place where ideas can grow. Several years ago, Sean Aker wrote The Happiness Advantage. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's a Harvard graduate, New York Times bestselling author. He mentioned that healthy, happy employees equals productive organizations and talked about positive psychology and all of that. Right. And then last week's World Happiness Summit, Karen Guggenheim, the CEO and founder, talks about why happiness is a global movement. And finally, Sarah Cunningham, managing director of World Wellbeing Movement, talks about the wellbeing paradox and how companies need to focus on not just one-off well-being programs and over-investing in those types of things, but actually fixing the root cause. Right. What is going wrong with employees, and why are they not happy, and why are they having burnout and those types of issues? Yeah. So what are you seeing as evidence of all of this in your work?
Great question. I think of I don't know if it's an analogy, but it's very similar to, you think about health in general, and there's been a lot of things written or said about root cause, right? And so we go to the doctor and you say, my foot hurts, and so the doctor says, okay, well, let me just bandage your foot and give you some Tylenol because your foot hurts. But why does your foot actually hurt? Does your foot hurt because you've got gout? Does your foot hurt because you broke it doing something? I mean, what is the root cause of why your foot hurts? So we need to get at that. And I think that's the same thing with what we're experiencing right now at work. And so one of the ways we approach engagement, and when we look at happiness, even in general, I mean, first and foremost, the way we measure engagement is we ask, how happy are you at work? And it's not a measure of dispositional happiness. It's a measure of, if I was talking to you, Karen, I'm not going to say, or your family was talking to you, they're not going to say, on average, a scale of 1 to 10, how engaged are you at work? No, they're going to say, hey, Karen, how happy are you working there? Right. And so it's really in a conversational tone, how happy are you working at wherever that place is that you work? And so we look at that. And one of the things that I always talk to my clients about is let's stop, because our immediate thing is to jump into what programs can we quickly build or think of, or, that's where our minds automatically go, is what programs do we quickly want to address or build? to address these issues. And instead, what do we need to look at in terms of norms or behaviors that we need to change as an organization to address whatever the issue is? And we need to do that through conversations, and it's a culture change, and it's a way of thinking differently. And so some of the evidence we're seeing that relates to that is when we look at words and comments around burnout, and the words that people are using around stress and mental health, and when people are using words around inflation and basic quality of life, and they're talking about needing to be able to put food on the table and basic needs types of things that are coming up. So it's really clear to me that there's this blurred line between being a human first. You don't stop being a human the moment that you go into the office, right? You're always a human. And so we have to remember that in how we think about our employees and how we work with people and how we talk to people and how we address people in the office. And before I even say build programs, build approaches to serving our employees as well and working with them.
It's a more holistic approach in how you care for people and how
Correct.
do they have that sense of belonging. And
Yeah.
especially given the past few years and what we've all been through, what we continue to go through with the news. I mean, I don't even really watch the news that much anymore. It's just, it's just not good. So,
yes.
And people are dealing with all of that, even though you try to push it down or whatever, it's all there. So they're going into work. And that's actually a question I do have for you. Are they going into work, or is it remote? Is it hybrid? Is it a mix? Like what's going on at this point?
It definitely is still a mix. I don't have the facts in front of me. I know that the hybrid is definitely the higher number right now in terms of what we're seeing, but in terms of what people want, they definitely want more flexibility. And so we ask a question around, I am satisfied with my ability to choose when and where I work. And so really this concept, I mean, people want autonomy. They want autonomy and empowerment in terms of making decisions about their work. And they want autonomy about making decisions about when and where they do their best work. And so if that means that I do better work at 2:00 in the morning as appropriate, if it's asynchronous type work where maybe I do some of my best thinking at 2:00 in the morning, research or writing or whatever it might be, by all means, maybe that's when I should be doing it.
Does that lend itself to that sense of loneliness though, and not belonging because you're doing work on your own in your home or whatever? You're not having that connection on a daily basis. I mean, I'm just wondering.
For some people it could, but for others who perhaps are more introverted, they perhaps get their sense of belonging in different ways. And so, I think the main thing is one size does not fit all. And what we're finding is that people don't want to come into the office to sit into a cubicle or a conference room to have to get on their computer and just do, again, asynchronous work, or to go into the office and get on a Zoom call to talk to other people when they could do it at home. And instead, organizations are looking at ways in which they can use that office to really build the connection. For instance, I have one client who is even exploring ways where they're saying, come to the office, leave your computer at home. Because so they're looking at the office as truly, we want you to come in. The whole purpose for that day that you come in is we are doing team building exercises. Or come into the office and it's going to be a team meeting or like an all hands event. And that's what people are asking for. How come we don't have any more of these all hands gatherings in person like we used to? And so I think, organizations really have to be purposeful about those types of things and how they're, rethink how they're using the space.
Do you think the C-suite is buying into all of this, the whole well-being mantra at this point?
do I think they're I think they buy into some of it, but again, they're thinking very programmatically about it. So do we invest, what can we invest in from a rewards or benefits type offering? So do we have classes? What does that mean in terms of health insurance? What does it mean in terms of like EAP offerings, instead of really looking at the core of their culture and thinking, do we need to empower managers to learn how to coach people, or to say, how are you doing? No, really, how are you doing? Or to really invest in, again, flexibility and what that looks. I mean, that's a harder lever to pull, right? And it's a harder
Definitely
change
harder.
to make.
Definitely harder. And maybe they're still doing the Band-Aid,
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll come around though, because it's such an important conversation. So let's continue the happy discussion here and talk about the 20 tips from the people scientists. You want to talk about that just came out?
Sure. So we were, again, we always talk about happiness. And so we were thinking about, well, if you think about happiness, and again, our own life experience as people scientists and the many, many conversations that we've had with clients, and you think about, again, one size does not fit all. What are those things that we suggest, if we're to take kind of ownership of bringing, having the most happiness and bringing yourself best self to work to do the best work? What does that look like? And so our team kind of put our best thoughts together on what that looks like, and some really great ideas that we shared, but I'll just, share a few. And, a lot of them are focused on lifting other people up and connecting with other people. And I just love that. But some of the other ones, and one that really resonated with, that was my suggestion and is important to me, is making sure that you find your passions and your strengths. Because at the end of the day, you have to find what you love and what is going to give you the energy to ultimately make you happy. I mean, we can't all work on the things that are going to give us the most energy every day, all day, every day, but finding a job that the core of what you do are those things that are going to give you the most energy is what's going to make you get up and not have those Sunday scaries, if you will, and say, I love my job and I'm so excited about going in and doing this and doing more of it. And so it's about balancing those in a way that is passionate for you. So, and a lot of other things like working with organizations where you're connected to the purpose of either the work you do or the organization that you do. And there's a lot that's been written about that lately, finding meaning in your work, or finding an organization that you connect with the meaning, or finding work that you really, that inspires you. So a lot of that purpose work as well. So I really encourage you to take we can share the link to that article as well, but there's some really great tips about ways to kind of dig deep on those happiness quotients, I guess, if you will.
Yeah, and I think gratitude is definitely another one that can be added if it's not in there already.
Yeah,
but definitely doing that. Just taking a pause. People are burnt out. You talked about that. Overwhelm. You just take a breath, take a pause, stand up, walk around. If you have the opportunity to do that. I'm reading a book called Micro Joys right now by Cindy Spiegel, and it's got all sorts of tips and everything in there about what you can do, what you can sort of take control of in your life to kind of have those little micro joys happening throughout the day, because I think that's important. Yeah. Okay, a question for you. First, before we get that, you have two professional goals, well-being and to teach the HR professionals of the future. I love that for you. Do you have a personal goal that you want to share?
I do. I think it's it's always really been part of it is, one, I've been doing more meditation and yoga lately, and so just really getting good at that. My balance.
It's a practice, so you don't.
It is a practice. Just quieting your mind, and I feel like each time I do it, I'm getting better at it. But so that's something that I've been focusing on a lot lately, is just the meditation piece. And
That's awesome.
And trying to do that. Yeah.
And I know you're a role model for your children. What do you hope they see?
I hope I'm a role model for my children. I think I had shared with you, my youngest daughter, who's 10, said to me the other day, Mom, you have a really cool job because you get to help people be happier at work. And that just made my heart happy, because that's what I want her to see. But, I was thinking about this, and we all have at least one family member or friend who's had a horrible work experience that we've talked to. And I want to be able to make those happen less and less. And my children, for the bulk of my career, have grown up listening to me advise organizations on how to treat people like they matter. And, so I think about those little ears listening through all these years to to me. They may not have heard the other end of the conversations, but to me, how to treat people like they're people first. And so my hope is that when they enter the workplace, that they will remember to find one that treats them with respect, that one that does good for the community, and one that will ultimately make them happy, and that they know that they can find, that I want them to find a career that's going to make them happy, not one that will make myself or their dad or someone else happy. And that's what I hope.
That's awesome. That's a great answer.
Role model for them.
That's a great answer. Christina, thank you so much for joining us today. I really, really appreciate it. Sharing your insights and importance of happiness at work and in life. I really appreciate it. And thank you all for listening. Until next time, be well.
Thanks, Karen. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening to Hush Providence, a well-being podcast. This would not be possible without the incredible help from Jamie Farinella and Stephanie Whitehead on branding and logo concept, John Papa's endless generosity, David Davignon and Austin Lynch for their skilled technical expertise, and of course, our amazing guests and all of you, our listeners. Until next time, be well.